What up, everybody? I'm Dave Miranda, and this is episode 50 of Just Give Me 5. I hope you guys are doing great, continue to be amazing. This is a real special episode for us today because we have officially hit half of 100. So in honor of that, we wanted to highlight some of our episodes from the beginning, starting with my brother Megaran, and just continue from there. So let's stop wasting time, yo. Let's jump right to it.
What up, y'all? This is Megaran.
This is Matlock.
This is DJ M2.
I'm Tyree Michael Carter.
Hey, it's Mario.
I'm Taji Sharp.
This is Masta Ace from Brooklyn, New York.
Melissa the Midnight Mamacita.
I am Pokafase.
This is Alex Santamaria.
None other than your man, Richie Evans.
Johnny Ray Diaz.
Bruce St. James. P, the light-skinned comedian.
Little Sean.
And all I'm saying is give me 5. First time I was allowed to go to a concert wasn't until college for me. And when I got to college at Penn State, which is about 3 hours away from Philly, the Roots came to town. So I wound up seeing a Philadelphia act at college for the first time. So that was my experience. Seeing the Roots live just completely blew my mind and took me to a complete other place. And it just kind of gave me a lot of potential ideas of what a live hip hop show could do. Because at that time I was still writing, but I had never thought about performances. And then once I saw that, I knew the top level of what a hip hop performance could be. So since then, I've always been a fan of the Roots. So it was an awesome experience to be able to catch them at my college.
And there was my brother Megaran, man, talking about Philly, you know, one of Philly's finest, hands down. Now let's jump into my brother Matlock's. Let's hear what he had to say.
Greatest memory about Friday Night Flavors. There's a lot of them. Of course, the 6-year anniversary where we had everybody come up and do rhyme time. We rhyme time for like, I think it was 3 hours or so, 3 or 4 hours. So we had everybody in the city roll through at the time. I think the biggest one was the cypher that we had with Moto Technique. I think Justice from CTL was there, Pokafase, S7, I think his name was. I forget his name. Is S7, I think it was. And just a bunch of others that we ended up, I started the freestyle late. So we ended up I ended up letting them go past the top of the hour before we were supposed to get off. And I think we went like 5 or 10 minutes late, but it was so dope I couldn't really stop it. And then, you know, we didn't get in trouble for it, but we should have. But that was probably the biggest memory that I had because I felt like Sway and Tech. I felt like the Baker Boys. I felt like, you know, like, oh, like this is like everybody's got to hear this freestyle. Like it went on for like, I think probably about 15 minutes. Yeah, 15 minutes. And you know, I swear that we were going to get fired on Monday, but we did not actually. My PD heard it and he's like, oh, that was really dope. I would have, you know, went past the hour too.
And there was Matlock's. Man, that Friday Night Flavors night, I remember that like it was yesterday, I tell you. Gosh, good times, good times. But now let's jump into one of my childhood favorites, Melissa the Midnight Mamacita.
You know, I didn't initially think radio was my passion. When I first got involved in the whole media thing, I was in high school. And I originally wanted to do TV. I was going for being a news anchor. And as time progressed, I started an internship at a TV station in high school. And then I got the opportunity to do radio. And after that, I was hooked. I was hooked. There was no stopping me after that. 25 years later, here I am.
And there you had it, Melissa. Man, that episode was real special for me because it really took me back to my childhood, you know? Man, nothing but love and respect to Melissa. Now let's hear what my man Tyree Michael Carter had to say, though.
Oh, Notorious B.I.G. That was one of my milestones and trophies that I'm very proud of. He was amazing. Super humble dude, down to earth. We smoked a blunt backstage before he went on. I hung out with Little C's, his whole crew. And one thing that stuck in my head after Biggie got done performing that night, he jumps down off the stage into the crowd, goes to the back door of Club Rio and stood there and shook every single fan's hand before they left the building. And I just thought, wow, no security, nothing, just Biggie in the crowd. It was dope. Nice. Dope.
Man, Tyree Michael Carter. I mean, what more can you say, you know? Brought Biggie out here. Really wish I could have attended that concert, you know, but that's legendary nonetheless, you know. But now, let's check out what Taji Sharp had to say.
Yeah, so this was probably about 95, 96. My man, Damon Lamar, he lives in Chicago. He actually was originally from here. That's my guy right there. He was a painter, like a draw. He used to draw, paint. I mean, and he still does, and he does murals all over Chicago right now. Dude's very popular. But he had met KANYE at a art competition one time, and he came back to Phoenix, and I remember it was like in the summer or something. And he was like, yeah, I met this guy. There was a rap cipher or whatever, and Damon raps as well. And he was like, yeah, I met this dude named KANYE, and he gave me a beat tape. He was kind of nice with it, but the beats, man, like, wow. And I was like, okay. So he popped the little cassette, the Memorex, you know, tape in the box or whatever, right? Yeah. And it was 5 beats on there. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I ain't never heard nothing like this in my whole entire life. Like it was almost like there was just this sweeping thing that took place that changed everything for me, you know? So we listened to the beats and we automatically just wanted to start writing to the beats. And then so one day he was like, man, he's like, you can call him if you want. And I was just like, I mean, we live in an era at that time where it wasn't like no Zoom, it wasn't no Skypes, it wasn't no nothing. I don't know what the dude looked like. No, it didn't really matter, but his talent was there. I knew that much. And I had never heard anything like that before. And so I called him up one day and I was like, yo, I'm Taji, I'm Damon's friend, you know, whatever. And then the relationship forged from there. I swear to you, every day we would be on the phone for 3-4 hours a day. He's banging beats and I'm rapping over the beats. Like, and they're just drum patterns at that time. Get off the phone, the beat is done, the raps are pretty much done. So that happened for like months, and then he finally, one day he was like, man, you should just come out to Chicago, I'll record your demo. And I think at the time I might have been like 18, and I was like, man, I'm working at Burger King. I'm like, all right, like, cool. So I stacked up my change, you know. Right. No, maybe I was like 17. I don't be like, yeah, and I wasn't 18 at Burger King, but whatever. But stacked up my change, flew out to Chicago, got to the airport. He picked me up, and I was like, and I didn't even believe that he was who he was, because in that time of hip hop, everybody was super baggy clothes, Timbs, just everything's rough and rugged, whatever. And my man's basically had on loafers with some clean, you know, slacks. Like he was just something like out of a GQ magazine. And I'm like, I didn't even really believe it was him until he spoke. And I was like, man, this is crazy. But anyway, it goes, at the time, he's still living with his mom. God bless her soul. Like, she was one of the most, like, beautiful souls you could ever meet. Like, rest in peace to Miss West. But anyway, it goes, I was in Chicago for 5 days. We literally had left the house, like, for one time. I remember we went to Wendy's. But we were in there working day and night. I swear, we probably only slept maybe 3-4 hours. And I was like, this guy is an animal. Like, I've never, just his thought process, his work ethic, I had never been introduced to anything like that. And I knew at that point in time, I was like, yeah, my life is probably gonna change, you know, just by knowing somebody of this kind of caliber. So it made me work harder. It made me more grateful for, you know, the movement that was happening for me, you know, just personally and just musically as well. So I remember that very first time I was there, he was like, yo, I want you to meet my man, Dion. And I'm like, I don't know who Dion, you know, I'm like, cool, but whoever you want me to meet, I'm gonna meet him, you know. But Dion was No ID. And so we drove to No ID's crib. And for me, that's mind blowing, because I'm like, yo, like, this man did Resurrection, he did Common's Resurrection. This is just, I used to love her like producer, what? Like crazy. So we sat around, we vibed. Dion was just like, yo, man, you nice, da-da-da-da, whatever, whatever. So as time progressed, Kanye ended up forming this group. It was called the Con Artists. So it was basically like Kanye's artists, right? So we ended up putting out a project called World Record Holders. It probably had maybe like 12 joints on it. I maybe was on like 3 of them or something, but it was, everybody else was basically from the Chi. I was like the only cat out of the group that was not from the crib, right? And so things started to shake and move. Things were going really well. And he was trying to work on getting a distribution deal, production deal. And so one of the cats who was part of the crew ended up signing a deal to cash money behind Ye's back. And so that, Kanye talks about this on Last Call, and I was around for that entire situation. Last Call on the College Dropout. If you listen to it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And he, it kind of just deflated his ball. You know, he was just like, you know what, I can't really afford to like put the time in to try to get everybody on when my beats are doing better than my raps and my artists. So fast forward, he starts focusing more on the production. He's rapping less or almost like not much at all. And then he got picked up by this cat named Free, who was basically A&R, if I'm not mistaken, at So So Def. So then Ye started getting, you know, he did the first song on Jermaine Dupri's 1472, I think is the name of that album. You know, he got a drop on Foxy's album. You know, he started building, so on and so forth. So as this is happening for him, he ends up moving from Chicago, moves to New Jersey, New York, you know, area. I end up going out there on several different occasions, and as things are progressing for him, he ends up connecting with Rockefeller and Dame, you know, really specifically. And I tell you, I had been in situations where, I'll give you an example, The Blueprint, that album, The Takeover, that version barely made it on that album, and I'll tell you why. And I've never really told this story to like anybody except for like close family members and friends, you know, but it's no secret. So it's a secret, but it ain't no secret. But anyway, it goes, the Doors would not clear that sample. So Ye had to go to the studio, and I was in New York at that time. And so we went into the studio, he comes up with 2 different versions of The Takeover to try to, he had to chop the sample up a little bit more. The drums still hit the same, but the sample itself moved differently. So we're in there basically from like 8 p.m. till about 5 a.m. The next day, they're like, yo, come to Baseline. We go to Baseline. I walk in there. Jay-Z is in there, Young Guru, and maybe Jay's, I don't know, bodyguard or something like that. And Jay was like, yo, he's like, I got good news and I got bad news. He's like, which one you want first? And we both just kind of like, what's up? Like, right, yeah. So he's like, the good news is, the sample got cleared. So we both kind of looking at each other like, yo, we've been in this studio all night long for this version that ain't never gonna get heard by nobody. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then the good news, the whatever, it was they had well, the bad news technically was that they were going to use the original version that was on the album, and then the good news was that the Doors also had what did they the charity they donated to his Sean Carter charity, which is kind of phenomenal, and I feel like it was only kind of like something that Jay could do, where it's like they didn't want to clear it at first. Now they're willing to clear it, and they gave you some money. Wow. Like, yeah. I mean, it's unheard of. Yeah, it's nuts. So, anyway, it goes. You know, that's just like one story of a gazillion stories. You know, just being around Jay, Ye. You know, the whole entire Rockefeller team. Like, it's interesting because when he was working on the College Dropout, like, I was around when Jesus Walks was just the drum sample, right. And the dun, 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 dun. That, but no bass line, no nothing on it. Even All Falls Down. Selena Johnson, you know, she ended up singing that version, but that was a clip, that was a sample from Lauryn Hill, which Lauryn Hill version was on that at first because that's initially what he wanted on there. Couldn't get it cleared if I remember correctly. But like John Legend would come through at the crib all the time. This was long before anybody knew who he was, before his album was ever out. You know, he was working on that at the time. So still good times. Shout out to my man KANYE. Appreciate you.
Man, Taj, you know, KANYE, I mean, classic. Doesn't get no more classic than that, you know. Speaking of classic, we had Masta Ace on the show. Let's hear him talk about the symphony.
So I don't know how to really explain how I felt recording the symphony, because the day that song was recorded, there was no intention by Marley to leave me on the song. So I didn't go into it thinking that this was going to be, you know, this hip hop classic record that was the, you know, the first of its kind sort of in terms of posse cuts. So that day I was just helping out, you know. There was a debate between G-Rap, Craig G and Kane about who was going to rap first, and nobody wanted to go in the booth and spit first. And so, you know, Marley Marl asked me to go in and just kind of crack the mic, you know, warm it up, spit something to get these guys loosened up. And so I was like, all right, I'll go in there. But I didn't go in there like thinking like, you know, this is my big break, or this is going to be the moment that people are going to finally know who I am. And see my name and know my name. None of that was in my head. All I was thinking was, all right, I'll spit something just to get everybody loosened up. So I spit a rhyme that I had memorized, and who knew that it was going to turn into the song that it turned into, and who knew that I was going to actually be kept on the song. I really didn't know until the song played on the radio for the first time that they kept me on the song. I was like, oh wow, they kept me on the joint. That's cool. Yeah, I was definitely not privy to all of the behind the scenes stuff that was going on, and to my fortune, they left me on the song, and the rest is history, as they say.
Masta Ace, you know, I mean, he was our first big national guest that we had on, and that was an honor. That was an honor for us, you know what I mean? Man, shout out to Ace again. Let's see what Bruce St. James had to say.
One of the things I really learned, and I learned it, I admit I learned it in Los Angeles, and I've tried to apply it in everything I've done, is, you know, LA really taught me, and my boss Rick Cummings and Michelle Mercer there really instilled it in me. We hire personalities. We hire talent. We hire entertainers. We teach them radio. Radio's easy. Radio's hitting buttons and talking into a microphone. Honestly, that's the easy part. Having a personality that comes through a speaker, that's not the easy part. And so when you look at some of these amazing talents we have, Big Boy, for example. Big Boy was the bodyguard for a hip hop group called The Far Side. And they came in and did our Friday Night Flava show in LA, and everyone said, we don't know who that guy is, but he's a star. He's funny, he's amazing. He was a lot bigger at the time. And literally reached out, and the Baker Boys were really part of that. And those guys were just mixers from Bakersfield, for God's sakes, that ended up being jocks on the air. And we brought Big Boy in, and Charlie Wedo actually is the guy who would run the board for him, because Big Boy didn't know how to do radio. And he would just sit on the other side with a microphone, and Charlie would point at him, and Big Boy would entertain. And it is amazing. So again, I've tried to do that. We did it in New York. We tried to do it in Phoenix, where I found people who weren't radio people necessarily. We had a guy, J Times 3, for a long time on Power. I met Jay doing a club night at whatever that club was right there at the Diamondback Stadium. It was right outside. Jackson's, thank you very much. And he was the MC. I didn't know who he was. Right. And I gave him my business card. I said, you need to call me on Monday. And I put him on, and you know, he just had that energy, just had a little bit of star power. We talked a little bit about, Ramses. I mean, the first time I met Ramses, I was like, I don't know what he is, and I don't know what he's good at. I just know he's a star. We'll figure the rest of this stuff out, and so it really helped me as a program director, finding talent. And I'd like to think it's something that I was good at, that I could see something in people. And again, all I would do is give them a stage to perform on. Go get them, And some of them really took it and run with it, which is awesome to see.
Bruce St. James, man, that guy's done everything, really just made a mark in Arizona, and it was so awesome to have him on the show, Another person who's made a mark in Arizona, Alex Santamaria. He's got a Whitney Houston story. Let's check that out.
Record company, again, back in the day, used to bring people out all the time to see it. They'd bring them out to us, we'd introduce them to us, and we'd meet them, and then these guys become huge. Well, record company says, hey, new artist in town, gonna bring her out, have some dinner, and see about playing her song. Okay. I was excited because when record companies came out, they paid for the dinner. So we went to Rustler's Roost over at off of I-10 and Baseline. Of course, there was no I-10 and Baseline back then, but it was out there Baseline, right? Rustler's Roost. And I don't know if it's still there. I think I told the story on the radio a few months ago, and somebody might have said it's still there. But at Rustler's Roost, when you went up there, they had a slide. They had like a little slide that slid from like the top floor down. It was not a big, it was just a little metal slide. Yeah. It was kind of cool for a restaurant back in the day. So we all sat down, and we're all going to eat. And they said, and oh, by the way, so it was Whitney Houston. It was Whitney Houston. So she took us out to go eat. And when she saw the slide, she thought it was cool. And then before the dinner came, she said, I need to use the restroom. And she asked, and we kind of pointed where it was, and she went. Time goes by, bring the food, still no Whitney. And now we're wondering what happened. I'm thinking, well, she's from out of town. She doesn't know the restaurant. Maybe she got lost. So I said, you know what? Let me go see if I can find her. She's in the restroom. So I go to the restroom, and I ask one of the waitresses there, hey, is there a girl in there? We've been waiting out. No, she's not in there. So I'm walking around. Where the heck did she go? Yeah. So I walk over, and there she is, going up and down the slide. She thought it was the coolest thing ever. And at the time, I wasn't like, Whitney Houston is on the slide at Rustler's Roost. I was like, hey, I think I might have said, hey, girl, what you doing? Come on, the food's here. We're ready to eat. She said, oh, I'm sorry. I was just having a good time. And so that was it. At the time, I didn't think much about it. Years later, she became Whitney Houston. And so I always remember when she was going up and down the slide. I thought that was pretty cool,
Alex Santamaria. I mean, that guy, that was easily one of the greatest episodes that we had, hands down. And, Whitney Houston is my favorite female vocalist of all time, and so when he told that story, it really gave me the ease, you know what I mean? So, we also had Johnny Ray Diaz on the show, and he was in Narcos. Let's hear him talk about that.
I also worked, funny enough, right when COVID happened. I was actually in Mexico City working on Narcos, and then they shut the whole thing down. But that was an amazing experience. I can't wait to talk more about that because, it hasn't come out yet, but it will, so I can't really kind of go into more the character and stuff. Right. But that right there was another moment where I was like, I can't believe I'm here type of thing. Yeah. It was really cool.
Johnny Ray Diaz, that was a fun episode too because that was me and Jimmy's first time traveling for the show. We went out to LA, went to Johnny's crib, and we filmed him there, and it was our first actor that we had, on the show, and it was awesome. That was a good time. Speaking of acting, we also had the one and only Pierre Edwards on the show. He was talking about his role in How to Be a Player. Let's go to that.
So how was it doing How to Be a Player? It was fun, man. I had just finished wrapping up Baps, the movie Baps with Halle Berry, and the same producers were producing How to Be a Player, and they asked me to come audition for that. I auditioned. I rocked the audition. They said, all right, let's do it, man. So, they put me, Jermaine Hopkins, Bill Bellamy, and A.J. Johnson, rest in peace, together, and the synergy was cool. One thing I liked was my man who directed, Lionel C. Martin, shout out to him. He let me do a lot of ad-libbing. And in fact, some of the things I ad-lib was some of y'all favorite parts. Like I was supposed to answer that door when my girl was coming in, caught me cheating with just my underwear. I was like, no, let me wear a cowboy hat and some cowboy boots and put some whipped cream in the front. I had a freaky good time. And he said, all right, go ahead and do it. The gynecology chair, when I went to that freaky girl house to see Bill, you know, I was supposed to come in the house to get on that gynecologist chair and start freaking it. Lionel Martin said, go ahead and do what you got to do, bro. Have fun with it. And I really appreciate it. And that's when I knew I had what it takes to, you know, to do this thing, man. When I knew my things would rock it out, you know, I was like, man, y'all liking the stuff I'm making up. So that was, you know, and that's why I want to put a movie called For the Love of Money, For the Love of Money. Look it up. That's one of my first movies I ever wrote. And I put all my funny stuff in it and people love that movie. Want to be a little cult classic. So if you get a chance, check it out.
Man, Pierre Edwards, man, you know, and that episode really took me back, you know, the movies, the films, Def Comedy Jam, you know, the whole nine, man. But How to Be a Player is a classic. You know, shout out to Pierre, man. That was awesome to have him on the show. Next we had my man Little Sean. He had a crazy Trump story in 50 Cent. Let's talk about that.
50 would come up to the studio and hang out because Martha Stewart was there, and they would kick it. Yeah. And you know who would come in, you know who would come up there and try to hang out and take us to lunch? Donald Trump. Oh, shit. I've been to lunch with Donald Trump like 2 or 3 times. Yeah. There was stuff like that. Like Trump would come and want to hang out with 50 so bad that he would take us to lunch at like Del Frisco's, because Del Frisco Steakhouse was in the building where Sirius was. So it was on the first floor. We go down there and have lunch. Order up whatever the hell we wanted. I'm taking filet mignon home. Because Trump's like, yeah. 50 said it perfect. 50 explained Trump. He's like, he's that kid that nobody wants to hang out with at school except for right before his birthday party, because you know his birthday party's gonna be off the chain. That's it. He was like, man, I can't stand it. 50 used to say, man, I can't stand this dude. But we would be at lunch. Who kid over there talking shit? Me, Reef, just hanging out. Like it was just crazy. The random things that were happening back then.
Yo, what's good, Mr. Miranda? Yo, I know I gave you 5, but guess what? I got one more just for you, my guy. 1999, turning 21 years old, man. Did my birthday party live on Power 92. Yeah, Power 92, not 92.3, not how they call it now. Power 92, y'all remember. Live on the air. I think I broke every rule in the book, man. Shout out to Bruce St. James, Mark Medina, Charlie Weddle, who all did not fire me. Once again, I almost got fired from radio my first year of 2 in it. Turning 21 live on Friday Night Flavors. Shout out to Double A Ron. We come in, we get ready to do the show. I'm turning 21 at midnight. So my birthday was on a Saturday. Everybody came through. Pokafase, Mike Wild, Megaran, Vina Cava, Squeak Boogie, Fade, Adam Baum, Tiffany, the whole Associates team. I mean, there was cats up there. I think Merge McVeigh was up there. Akko Mac. I mean, we were rolling weed in the studio, drinking in the studio, cussing on the air, doing our whole thing. My birthday hits at midnight. I come walking around the corner right in front of Bruce St. James' office, which is our program director. And Adam Baum smashes a chocolate and cherry cake in my face. I mean, the whole carpet was covered. It looked like a chocolate cake got murdered. Completely just everywhere, stained up the whole 9. Now, one of my bosses called me. It was my birthday. They called me Sunday morning. The only thing they did to me, man, thank God. I appreciate you, Bruce, Charlie, Mark, for not killing my career right then. Man, they took me out of a concert lineup, man. They made me run the board while everybody was live at a concert out at Cricket at Desert Sky Pavilion, whatever it was called then. Man, that's one of my final stories. Hey, man, happy 50th, Mr. Miranda. Hey, my 5, man. You got my 5, man. I got another 5 for you whenever you're ready, big dog.
Sean, man, you know, like, yo, man, that was definitely one of our greatest episodes as well. You know, I mean, Sean has stories for days, you know, and yeah, man, from the bullet coming out of 50's mouth also, I mean, it's just crazy times, man. Nothing but love to my man, Little Sean, you know. Now let's go into the one and only DJ M2, because he had talked about the Red Bull battle that he was in.
When I won the Red Bull THREESTYLE competition out here, it was 2011. I won here in AZ, and that was amazing. That was a really, really dope feeling for me because it was like in my hometown, whole bunch of DJs I respected, looked up to, a lot of my peers, a lot of people in the community that I've just known and everything. And to go in there and battle and actually take the trophy and win it, that was just really, really dope. And much respect to everybody that was in the battle that I went up against, and it was cool. After that, I won, so it means I went to the US finals. And in the US finals, they held it in Las Vegas that year. And we battled at the Palms. I forgot the name of the nightclub. I want to say it was Rain at the time. And that experience was really dope just because I got to meet a lot of the other DJs that won in their heats around the country. And there were some big name DJs in it. There was DJ Dynamics, there was Chris Carnes, which Chris Carnes at the time just won the DMC World Championships. So we were all like bugging on that dude, like, yo, this guy's gonna take it this year. So like it was good to have all these elements within that battle. It kind of like really built me up to become a better DJ and to get that experience. And then also my man Golden Child was in that battle, and there was just a whole bunch of really dope DJs in there. And just to go through what Red Bull did, you know, they took care of us, they gave us a great experience. Talib Kweli performed at the battle. It was just dope all the way around. And I would never trade that experience for anything at all. So I would say, I know we're not here to give advice or anything like that, but real quick, like if you're an up-and-coming DJ or anything, battle. Hit as many battles as you can, because you're gonna do nothing but just get better.
Man, DJ M2, man, nothing but love to my man Mike, you know what I'm saying? Like that was, you know, he's just definitely paved the way out here in the DJ scene. And to hear him talking about the battle and, you know, all of his experiences, that was awesome. That was a fun one for sure. And he was like episode 3, you know? But now let's go into, we have my uncle on the show, Mario Mendeville. Let's hear him talk about touring with Kool and the Gang.
Being a local artist or musician here in town for a long period of time, I've been exposed to a lot of studio sessions here, so my name gets around a little bit. And Joni Sledge had moved here a while ago, and so I had the opportunity to do some studio work with her. And then actually do some gigs with her a little bit and some other production stuff. At one point later, years down the line, a good friend of mine, Dominic Amato, is the musical director currently still for Sister Sledge, and their bass player couldn't make the tour that we're going to tour France. And so he called me because he knew that I already had a relationship with Joni, that, you know, she knew me and she was comfortable with me, and that I was reliable. And so that happened very quickly, and I was able to tour about 10 cities in France. We were with Kool and the Gang. So we were the first act, and then Kool and the Gang would come on after that. So it was a pretty amazing experience to be hanging out with Joni Sledge, someone that when I was 15 years old, you know, I'd look at the album cover, and now, you know, we're hanging out and you know, doing these gigs together, and then to hang out with Kool Bell, you know, who I also grew up listening to, and just those guys are on the side of the stage watching you perform, and, you know, saying what a good job you guys did and all that kind of stuff. It was very gratifying, you know. So kind of a dream come true, actually. So,
man, shout out to my Uncle Mario. You know, that was a special one for me, man, because he's also my godfather. So, you know, to have my Nino on the show was awesome. You know, that felt really good. The stories he has, I mean, he's done so much out here. So it was really awesome to have him on the show. Now let's get into my man Richie Evans and hear him talk about recording with Game and KANYE.
Shout out to my big bro Game. You know, Game was in Phoenix, Arizona at the time working on his album, The Doctor's Advocate. There's a producer, you know, goes by the name of Swiss Beats, you know, DMX and the whole Rough Riders. You know, they end up building a good little foundation out here in Phoenix, Arizona. So Game ended up coming out here actually to work with Swiss Beats on his album. At that particular time, man, I was, you know, I was working on a mixtape, and the day that I was working on the tape, man, I just kind of didn't have that vibe. I kind of didn't have that same energy that I normally have. So I just told my engineer, hey, do me a favor, burn me a disc I'm gonna go ahead and go home, man, and, you know, revamp for the night. So on the way home, though, I'm sliding by this club. It's called CB&C. And there was a Lambo out front with the doors up. In the back of my mind, I was like, man, who's in there? And I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna slide in here and just get me a drink. So when I slide in, you know what I mean? I see Game and I see Swizz Beatz sitting in the VIP section. You know, at that moment, I think that I was just motivated because I was going through a couple personal things within my life. Right. So at that particular time, I knew that I had one disc on me. I wasn't cool with just giving it to his management or giving it to his security guard, you know what I mean? Anybody who's really pressed the line as an artist, you know, and have done that, it never really got back to the person it needed to get back to. So at that particular moment, I really wasn't with that. I waited a brief moment. I had an opportunity, ran up to him. You know, he looked at me kind of crazy, but I just told him, I was like, hey man, I'm a kid from Phoenix. I think I'm one of the dopest, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to give this disc to your management or your security. If you throw it away, it's fine. At least I know that you got it. So at that particular point, man, he grabbed the disc. Him and Swizz Beatz left. I got a plane ticket and a phone call the next day, and it was Black Wall Street. I flew to LA, he picked me up. You know what I mean? I was still in shock, like, you know, this is a guy that, you know, I kind of studied from, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I was a fan before anything, you know what I mean? And I think that he was a dope writer, a dope artist, and a dope MC. So for me to be flown to LA and picked up by him and being in his environment was just kind of mind-blowing for a kid who really had those dreams and aspirations. As time went, man, we dropped my bags off, went straight to the studio. Literally straight to the studio. I walk in the studio, man, I see Kanye West sitting at the board. About 15 minutes later, Common walks in. You got this kid from Phoenix, Arizona, man, is looking at all these three kings. It was just a real magical moment. As Kanye was actually going through some beats for Game at the time, I knew the Game was gonna ask me to rap. So the whole time that I was on the plane flying to LA, I was kind of memorizing, you know what I'm saying, some of the music that I was writing in my phone. So while at that particular time he was sitting there going through these beats, I was like closing my eyes, kind of going through this little Rain Man mode. And Kanye looks at me and he was like, hey, you got something to this beat? And I was like, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, okay. He was like, go in the booth. So, you know, Game looks at me right quick, and the only thing that was going through my mind at the moment was like, I have to make these guys bob their head. I know I got one shot. Like, I felt like Eminem in the whole 8 Mile, lose yourself in the moment situation, but I just knew that this was an opportunity that I had to seize. Either I was gonna seize it, or he was gonna fly me back home. So I go to the booth, and he starts to beat, and I just start spilling. And I just see Kanye's head nodding. But I see Game just standing there like with no expression on his face. And I was like, come on, man, bob your head, brother, bob your head. Yeah. He didn't bob his head. He pressed the button and said, hey, come out. And I was like, shit, I'm going home. You know what I'm saying? I'm going home. But I walk in there, Kanye's looking at me like, I look at Game, he doesn't say nothing. Yeah. Game walks into the booth, puts the headphones on, and puts a hook on the verse that I just spit. He comes back out, calls his assistant. About 20 minutes later, his assistant comes in, throws me a chain, and he says, welcome to Black Wall Street. We end up doing this record, and it ended up becoming my first record under Black Wall Street. It was called Rollin', produced by Kanye West and featuring the Game. You know, that was a real introduction as a Phoenix kid to the world. You know what I mean? It moved kind of fast for me at that time. You know, we dropped the record. Now I'm with Game every day. You know what I'm saying? I'm with him at videos. I'm with him in the studio, helping him create records. You know what I mean? He's taking me on tour. You know, he's really helping me create a real national and international identity. You know, I start being in a lot of the major publications, you know, XXL, Source, and, you know, all those type of things. As all that was kind of happening, you know what I'm saying? My name and my image and my face was growing, but also at that particular time, the structure of the label was decreasing. You know, that was a very critical time when, you know, Game was in a big public feud with one of the biggest artists ever to this date named 50 Cent. You know what I mean? You know, Game was signed to 50 Cent, and, you know, I don't want to get into it too much, but like I said, their contractual obligations, you know what I'm saying, and things that were kind of going on just kind of affected any and everybody who was signed to that brand. And ultimately, it affected me. I had my album done, you know what I'm saying, but, you know, the relationship was so toxic and the business was so toxic that Interscope really didn't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? You got two of their biggest brands, G-Unit and Black Wall Street, colliding with each other, you know what I mean, which was ultimately affecting, you know what I'm saying, the money. But like I said, 50 being who he is, and at the time being probably the biggest name in hip hop at that moment, of course he had more power and more sway in that building than anybody. And like I said, at that particular point, unfortunately, you know what I'm saying, Black Wall Street had to fold. You know, I was under contract for a while, you know what I mean, a few years after that. You know, the frustration kind of started setting in a little bit because I don't think that the general public really knew what was going on. You know, you start getting criticism like, hey, what's up with his album? You know, did he not deliver a solid project? Or, you know what I'm saying, what's the holdup? But I think that a lot of people got to understand is sometimes when you're signed to another artist, it's necessarily not something that you did. It's just something that the bigger machine, you know, controls, and you either got to ride it out or pay yourself out of that particular situation. So, but like I said, for me, man, you know, I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, Game gave me an opportunity on a global platform, you know what I'm saying? He helped me understand really what this music was about, good and bad. You know, it gave me the motivation and gave me the passion, you know what I'm saying, to thrive where I'm leading to now, you know what I'm saying? And that's just the growth of Richie Evans and the Evans administration.
Man, shout out to Richie Evans. I mean, that dude has done a lot and he's still doing it. Like, he is just making some serious moves right now. And, you know, it was just really, really dope to have him on the show. But now I think, you know, let's end it with the hometown hero, my man Pokafase. We had him on, and he was telling a really interesting story about Proof. Let's go to that.
Let me set everything straight, right? On the whole Eminem, Shady Records, Proof, and how we all kind of got interwoven, right? Through really, like, I mean, just some of the best times ever. So Em and I were cool, right? Real cool. I don't want to insult either one of us or what he and Proof had to say we were close friends like that, right? You know, M was always, I mean, just, you know, more than cordial, amazing to us. You know, had us out at his home. They always rolled out the red carpet for us whenever we were in Detroit. Whenever we would meet the team, you know, we would meet the Goliath artist and Shady Records team out in Vegas or out here on the West Coast quite a bit in LA. You know, and they were just always real accommodating, you know, and it was real. Like, it was always real, right? It wasn't everybody fanning out, right? We got together and, you know, unwind, right? Blow out some steam from all the shit we were going through in our respective areas. I met Em and Proof when they were out here for the Warped Tour in '99. And I'd actually opened for Em at Club Rio. But then he was back out here for the Warped Tour, and I got a call from Fade, who is my lead producer, and really, you know, Fade is a huge piece of my story, right? You know, benefactor / lead producer / you know, kind of the mastermind behind what to do with Pokafase post No Question, right? And so he was really instrumental just in the early part of my career. Him and Ty Carter, I mean, you know, I credit most to the team I had back then. So we run into Em and Proof. Fade calls me and says, hey, you need to get over here to it's like the Doubletree on like 44th and Van Buren or something. He's like, I'm up here with Eminem and Proof. And these dudes are freestyle. You got to come up here and rap. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, how the fuck are you over there with Eminem and Proof, right? And so we had heard about Eminem from G-Rap. We were working on G-Rap's album. And, you know, I remember being in the studio. And after we were done, he was like, there's this kid. You know, G-Rap be like, son, You know, there's this kid, son, right? You know, fucking, his name is like fucking Eminem or something, you know? And I'm like, you know, we laughing and shit, and he's like, the kid is crazy. He's the truth, right? And he was talking about, you know, M battling, and this is like, I think when M was like beefing with Graf, or was it Graf? I forget the kid's name, not Graf. Scam? Is it Scam? I don't know. But this is like some Detroit shit, right? They were on some battle shit, and I think M had recently blazed the rap Olympics. You know, this was kind of during that era, right? And he was still coming up. At any rate, I went over to the hotel, and they spitting, and I mean, they freestyling, it sounds like it's written. I'm just amazed. I'm like, these motherfuckers are crazy. M had to dip, Proof wound up staying, and we just sat and built with Proof, to be honest. It was just kind of a weird happenstance. He was sitting around before the show, had errands to run, ran a couple errands with him, you know, and he was just a real dude, you know. We hung out after the Warped Tour, and, you know, the sentiment was like, hey, you motherfuckers are cool, you know? And it wasn't really on no, you know, you're M, you're Proof, what can y'all do for us? Oh, you know, you guys some up-and-coming rappers. It was more like, damn, you know, out of all the people I done ran into, you motherfuckers seem like you're the realest, you know what I'm saying? Right, so, yeah. You know, that's kind of what it was built on, the whole thing was predicated on. And then from there, man, it was just friendship, right? So, you know, Fade and Proof were really close. Proof and I became really close. After all was said and done, you know, I consider Proof a mentor, and you know, somebody that really helped shape my career and my thinking about the industry, how I approach things. You know, M, to be quite honest, was more in the background. It was more about Proof. You know, P, I don't really talk a lot about Proof, so it's a little weird, right? But P, you know, he was the kind of person that no matter who you were, right? If you were on his team, you were on his team, right? You were as important. The mail clerk is as important as the A&R, is as important as the CEO in Proof's eyes. There was nothing, right? So, you know, if we out and we had a party and we were out, you know. But Proof would walk up, he grabbed my arm and run me over to Leor Cohen and be like, Leor, this is Pokafase. Poke, this is Leor. Y'all need to know each other, right? And I'm like, you know, hey, how you doing? You know what I'm saying? You know, but people do that everywhere. Poke, Jimmy, this Poke. He knows Ted. You know Ted. You guys talk, right? Wait, hey, how you doing, Mr. Ivy? You know what I'm saying, right? But you know, that was just the dude Proof was, and he wasn't tripping. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, if he loved you like that. You know what I mean? And so, you know, it was really that whole time period. I was trying to figure it out. You know, I didn't know shit. I'm a kid from Arizona that suddenly was given way too much money and thrusted into the middle of the music industry. You know, Shady Records, Eminem, 50 Cent, Dr. Dre, Aftermath was the biggest shit in the world at the time. And we are literally behind the scenes through all of it. So from 99 to 06, you know, when Proof was murdered, you know, we're running the Up in Smoke tour. So we are backstage, behind the scenes, at the hotels, on the buses, here, Anaheim, Vegas, LA. You know, I was in Chungking. I'm out in the studio when D12 was recording Devil's Night. Wow. And, you know, got a chance. They were actually recording fight music, you know. You know, got to be there as M is writing the Marshall Mathers LP. You know, we coming off of the Slim Shady EP and just being there to hear M talk about how he fucking hates performing How My Name Is. He's over it, you know what I'm saying? Right. But it's still one of the biggest records in the world at the time, you know? I remember when I was really 2 feet in my deal, you know, the Eminem show, just being one of the biggest records in the world. And I remember riding back and forth to the studio, listening to the Eminem show, tripping that we were getting ready to go meet Eminem out in Vegas. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was like, just that kind of thing, you know? And so they had a huge influence. You know, I ran 50's first tour with him, with Miko, God bless him. Miko is as important as TMC and Fade were to the beginning of my career. Miko kind of picked up midway, and he was equally as important to the later parts of my music career. You know, Proof was the person I would call when I was down on myself or the industry, or, you know, just this rap shit. You know, I call it, man, fuck this shit. You know what I'm saying? Excuse my French, right? You know, but, you know, this happened and I'm over this and I'm ready to kill this person. And, you know, P would just be like, check this out, man. You know, remember who you are. Remember what you can do. Know your worth. Know your value. You know what I'm saying? And he got me through some dark times, you know. You know, P was moving to Arizona and he had spent a lot of time out here with us. And I ran the last 5 shows with Proof that Proof did before he passed. We did Vegas and we did Tucson, we did Phoenix, we did a couple in Cali, we did some shit in Albuquerque. And, you know, he was in a real good spot. Things were really good with him and M. He had, you know, M and Royce were trying to work some things out, and Proof was kind of in the middle of trying to broker that a little bit. And, you know, it was just a lot of things kind of swirling in. And, you know, we had been telling P, man, come on out here, get the fuck out of Detroit, man. It's crazy out there, you know. And he was going to close on a house out here. And I remember P deciding he wanted to run back to Detroit to you know, tie up some loose ends, something they needed to do, I don't know. And so we were all telling P, you know, why? Like,
don't go.
yeah, you got people there, man. Yeah. How them handle that shit? You know what I'm saying? Keep your ass here, right? And he decided to go anyway, you know. And the rest is history, right? I remember I was on the air. I was on at Power 98.3. I think it was Power 98 then. Might have still been Power 92 then. Matter of fact, it was still Power 92.3. Yeah. And I was on right before the Nuts came on. I was on overnights, still trying to earn my keep in radio. And I got the call at like 5:40 in the morning. And I know because I still had about 20 minutes of my shift left, and I just left the station. He told me he got murdered. He was shot in the head, and that's pretty much it, man. It was a rough time, you know, because it was like a lot of my hope at that point. Right. It died with Proof.
Yeah, there was some diminishing.
You know, but you know, while he was here, man, I really got to witness some amazing things with Proof. The respect that Proof got everywhere, man. It didn't matter where we went, didn't matter what city, what crew, didn't matter if it was execs or if it was hood niggas. Everybody loved and respected Proof. I mean, you know, obviously except Mario Etheridge, who, you know, I hope he dies slow and painfully. But, you know, I learned a lot from that, you know, in addition to just being an amazing MC and what I learned from Proof on just the phonetics and the syllables and how he put shit together and his process for freestyle and how he laid his shows out. He taught me about, you know, building show sets. He did a lot of that for M, people don't know that. But, you know, getting to see how he was the mayor of Detroit. And when I say the mayor, you know, it didn't matter where he went. They rolled out the red carpet for Proof. You know, it kind of, it helped me understand how I need to relate to people and how I should treat people and how I should bring people along with me and, you know, how when there's an opportunity, go ahead and put somebody in play, right? Make that introduction, why not, right? If you're secure in what you do and who you are and you're doing it right, then you look for those opportunities, right? Nothing says more about a boss than who you promote, right? And a lot of people don't realize that. And Proof did, you know, so, you know, it was a blessing. And then, you know, the dude was a gladiator, man. So, you know, I watched Proof smash Supernatural in the middle of the Magic, you know, fashion conference in the Vegas Convention Center at the Def Jam booth, or the Fat Farm booth, excuse me, and, you know, the whole conference stopped and the crowds walk up and Proof of Supernatural going at it, and, you know, he killed dude. Dude didn't even want a third round. They unplugged the microphone. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Supernatural probably be mad if he ever sees this, but I mean, that's what happened. And don't get me wrong, Supernatural's a ninja on his own. He's a shogun. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, just moments like that, you know, rocking with Proof and Obi and M at Club Blue in Detroit, you know, after hours, you know, we just getting on the mics and 50 is there and all the G Unit and we all just clowning. And I mean, just those kind of times, of course I'll miss them, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, all I can say are great things about Proof and Eminem. You know, M was, again, he was not the person you would probably expect the biggest artist in the world to be, right? You know, M's the kind of guy that we sitting in the limousine and, you know, he's gonna offer you some game for free, right? Shoot you some advice. Just on the cool, right? He the biggest artist in the world. He don't even have to talk to me, right? But he let me sit and pick his brain and get my questions off and gave me some real life game back, you know, so. I have nothing but great things to say about Shady Records, Paul Rosenberg, Theo Settlemeyer, you know, everybody behind the scenes over there. Tracy, I love you, Tracy, if you ever see this, you know. Good folks, and definitely one of the best chapters in my book for sure.
And there you have it. Man, I just want to say thank you all for continuing to rock with us for 50 weeks. 50 weeks we have been dropping one episode every week since December of last year. And which reminds me, our 1-year anniversary is actually coming up, and that's crazy. You know, it's like, you know, I had this idea that I just really wanted to, you know, shed light on, you know, all the people who I felt really truly deserved to be heard. And, you know, I hit my brother Jimmy up. He was with it. And, you know, here we are, man. You know, and the sky's the limit. You know, we have so many other ideas in the works and just things that we're continuing to work on to try to just provide nothing but the greatest quality for you guys. So just want to say thank you. And, you know, I hope you guys continue to enjoy what we got going on. And, you know, the love is definitely appreciated. And so till next time, stay tuned, stay blessed, stay healthy, and just give me 5, y'all.